Just waiting. It's about 30, 40 seconds before anybody gets any info that I'm on. Ooh, welcome, welcome. Ah, another day in paradise, right? So welcome, welcome. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you see this on this big blue ball planet that we are on. Yeah. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me. It's another day. Yeah, we're here. Yeah. We woke up. We're alive. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. We're above ground. So what is it that's happening today? I think this week is going to be a energetic week. I think this week is going to give us some challenges. You're going to have some good and bad. I was just reading, poor Andrea I call her Andrea from the start because I know a lot of Andrea, so I have to classify them. And Andrea from the farm. I mean, they've had some challenges, with their, one with their animals and stuff. So sending out blessings to all their animals, and the other one to where craziness is just sort of surrounded them, where they have something really good, and then all of a sudden something, they break their toe. So sending out blessings to both sides, to all of them, because there is some craziness that's happening and that's going around. So it's like this circulation of chaos. I was listening to who was I listening to? I just want to bring her up. And she explained things so well this morning. And I don't know if you've ever listened to Katie Hopkins, but Katie Hopkins, I mean, this is a woman who has had everything taken away from you. And I mean, the powers that be, have put her through the ringer, taken her house, taken her money, um, took her children, went after her new boyfriend, her now husband, and his finances, and the whole bit. So she understands how the establishment works. She understands. She even had, when she was in, like, she's banned from certain countries. She's not allowed to go into certain countries because to them she's a horrible, horrific woman, right? But she explained something very well today, and I'm just, I don't know if everybody will hear it, but I just want to see if I can share it here. I don't want to get any infringement rights or anything like that, but oops. So that's Katie. Hang on here. There we go. Back here. Bear with me. Oh, no.
Well, the good news is Tommy's been released on bail. And
so if you don't know who Tommy, I've talked about Tommy before. He was arrested after the gathering on Sunday for terrorism, and it's just
not that
stupid.
surprising a thing. He's due in court in a couple of days' time, and they've been able to make their point, and that is the establishment, which is to label being at the Freedom Rally in Trafalgar Square as something to do with terrorism. And this is all about self-preservation.
That's what.
So it happens.
So that's really what it is. It's about the self-preservation, and she makes a really good point.
In a number of different ways. Self-preservation means that both GB News and Reform Party members or supporters have been told in no way should they attend or express support for the Freedom Rally in Trafalgar Square. That is a mandate.
And we have that here in Canada as well. So we have where the powers that be will mandate the news and other things, the newspapers and that, what to write and what to say.
Can almost see the email. People out there have got it and could share it if they so choose, but then they'd be kicked off either GB News or Reform. So the important thing to note if you're a Reform supporter or GB News supporter is you don't want to lose those platforms. They're important to us. But what you have to recognise is they are in the business of self-preservation, and self-preservation in mainstream and politics and finance and, well, life actually says, sorry, I've got sweat in my eyes, says that you cannot be associated with anything to do with what Tommy Robinson is supposed to represent. Because, of course, what he actually represents is ordinary, decent people from all walks of life. So self-preservation says GB News can't be there, and self-preservation says Reform can't be there. So, for example, when people say, Katie, why don't you stand for Reform? That's a very long way from understanding Reform's position. Nigel.
Now, if you don't know what Reform is, it is a political party in the UK. And it's sort of like they're outspoken. Farage has been a person who's been outspoken, but he doesn't want to be affiliated with, say, Tony or Tommy or even Katie, because even though he believes in what they're saying, in being associated with them, because the political parties and the political status say that these are bad people and that they're terrorists.
Farage would rather catch Ebola than be seen in the same image as me or Tommy. It's imperative for him to self-preserve, and self-preservation means don't be seen anywhere near. Do never support anything we're up to, even though they're trying to speak to our core audience, which is really actually an authentic audience. The other thing is, so you see someone like Michelle Dupes, and no criticism of anybody on GB News, but she's like, oh, I just happened to be in London, so I just happened to walk past the protest. So that's a signal to my bosses, don't get cross with me. I didn't actually attend. I just happened to be there. It's all fine.
So I'm going to stop, and the reason I'm going to stop this, and there's a reason, of course, there's always a reason why I do the things I do, right? Self-preservation. And there is a huge thing on self-preservation in our world right now, where everybody's trying to preserve their way of life. They're trying to hold on to whatever reality, whatever they feel is their truth, their idea. And you see it where, people are still wearing nappies on their face. You see it when people are rushing for the next injection. You see it when people don't really want to step out and go to the rallies because they don't want to have their name. They don't want people to know what it is that, their true thoughts or feelings. And it is a hard one, because what's happening is that this self-preservation, this ideology of keeping it, and the image I keep on seeing is that they're on this small island and they're trying to keep everything in their life intact. They're trying to keep everything together. And we have the government, and we have the police, chipping away at that, the powers of the police, the powers of the government, chipping away at it little bits and little bits and little bits. And you don't think it's much, right? Because you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it because it's only a tiny bit. It's like when something's eroding, right? You don't see the erosion. Okay, that's eroding. Yeah, that looks pretty, but it's not too bad. And then you come back a year later. Oh, it eroded a little bit more. And you come back another year later. Oh my God, it's really getting bad. But I could still use the bridge. I could still cross to get to the other side. And that's what we are going. I mean, this is the whole part about the fear of missing out. I don't want to miss out. I really want to uphold everything for my children. I want to make sure that they have. I want to make sure that I keep my lights on and I keep everything on in the self-preservation of the status quo. And we are witnessing in real time how that erosion is happening. And especially when it comes to social media, especially when you come to like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever social media that you use, you're starting to see things in real time. You're starting to witness things and see where the false narrative is. But again, we're going back to that self-preservation. We're going back to that erosion. Is that, well, you know what? It really isn't that bad. They only raised my taxes up 9%. That really isn't that bad. I can get by. I may need to cut back on a little bit of things, but I still got my house, I still got my cars, I still, maybe we won't take that big trip, but we can take this little trip over here and still keep, the things that we love to do. And we are going to be witnessing in real time, and I mean, even with the whole thing. Mateus, can you stop? You're putting everything on the floor. Sorry. We're seeing in real time, even with what happened with the Olympics, how society's eroding, how the world around us is pushing people into a corner. And people are thinking like, oh, well, it's not too bad. I can still function. But this is where, and I'm going to say August, when we were entering into August, and even within this week, you're going to have these disruptions that are in your life, and they're in your life as a wake-up call. They're in your life to start to realize, okay, maybe I need to start to restructure the way that I think. Maybe I need to, realize that giving all my power to one person, one institution, one thing is not a good idea. Maybe when you look at, especially when you look at the Canadian, I mean, does anybody look at the Charter of Rights or give a shit about it? When you look at, and you could call like the Americans are like egotistical, self-centered, blah, blah, blah. There is a part of that because in their history where they have fought against tyranny, they fought against being taxed, they fought, you had the civil rights movement, people fighting and saying, no, we're not putting up there. I want my kid to go to any freaking school I want them to go to. We have this, they have this, centralization, this, here this is what we are wanting to create. And there is a fight to keep that. There's a fight to keep that. There's a fight to keep that freedom of thought, that freedom of speech, and keep it alive, because it is really a part of their, agenda. It's a part of their First Amendment rights. And then you go to the Second Amendment rights, where the freedom to bear arms. And what is that? And you think, especially here as Canadians, and even you go to the UK and stuff like that, I believe like, ooh, guns are bad. But then if you're giving your sole power over to a central person, government, saying, well, they're going to protect us, they're going to keep us safe, we're going to be fine, it's going to be okay. This is where, and especially with Mercury going retrograde, it's going to be, people are going to start seeing that, oh my God, we're really not that safe. If we really don't toe the line, if we really, just like how the young woman from GB News had to write that statement, she put it out on X. so that her bosses don't get pissed off at her. Oh, I just happened to be in London that day, and I just happened to go by the protest, and she said the word protest because that's what they were looking at it. They didn't look at it as a freedom rally. It's just like when our truckers went to Ottawa, many Canadians. I mean, there's a very few that really saw it as a gathering and as an awakening and people getting together. There were a lot that thought, oh my God, why don't they just get on with their life and just stop causing problems? Because those people who are saying, you'll stop causing those problems are ones that are afraid of what they have, afraid of losing it all. If you're in a position where you are afraid of losing it all and you are wanting into that self-preservation, you're going to wake up in a reality, in a world right now that's going to slap you across your fucking face. If you're hanging on to that of what you think is precious, I'm not saying about, I'm talking about mundane things. Yes, we hang on to our family, we hang on to our children, we hang on to our community, the people that we want to grow with and build with. We want to hang on to those types of things. But if we're hanging on to, oh, I got to keep my status, I got to keep all of this, then we're going to find that, especially, this Mercury retrograde that's coming up, the Mars and Jupiter conjunction that's happening in Gemini, and Mercury rules Gemini. And right now we have the moon, conjuncting Uranus, which is on Elgo. That what are we hanging on to? And what we are hanging on to is really not worth hanging on to. And that we have to awaken to step out of it. And sometimes that awakening is very harsh because you have to lose it all, be pushed to a corner, and then it starts to happen. It starts to happen. And it's funny because, when you take all of Canada and stuff like that and how the East looks at it and how the West looks at it, it's two different points of view. Like it's like, except if you go to BC, they're kind of fucked up there. They're but you find that there is this piece, this part of, even when you go back east, and I've talked to a few people that are back east, and they're just saying, people are still scared. I have a girlfriend, a very good friend, who's going through cancer treatments, who, was told in order, when everything happened, like I think she's had three of them, 3 of the elixirs, and she was going through the treatment, and I said, don't do it, because they're still pushing that agenda, and people are still following suit, because it's like, oh my God, if we don't, it's all gone. We lost it. And people don't want to hear that. They don't want to rise up. They don't want to, see it. And so much of our complacency, especially as Canadians, have allowed for this to happen. And I really, how this fall is going to unravel and unfold is going to be a hard bullet to bite for a lot of people. And a lot of things that you thought you had, and the thought that you had and you were preserving, and that FOMO is like, because, with Mercury, with Neptune and Saturn retrograde, people are going to be in the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Oh my God, what if? This is where it's like, desperation. You want the happiness, you want it, but you got to watch. You got to watch. You got to watch what, the things that you are trying to avoid. You got to watch what is that fear that you have deep within inside of you that you're missing out on, and what do you think it is? And that's a harsh bullet to bite. And that's where a lot of people are, especially with this energy, and how you distress and how you work within your energy to release it. It isn't a time this week. Do not sit. I mean, if you're stressed, don't sit on the couch and stew. Get your fucking ass outside. Go for a goddamn walk. Don't just sit around and do fuck all. This is a time of really, really assessing the things that are important in your life. And I'm going to you're going to hear me repeat this many times, and you're going to say, "Oh, shut the fuck up, mama," which is fine. You can say that. But this is where you're going to, especially as we are going into the fall. I mean, I know we haven't hit August yet. It's only July 29th. But as we are, this is like me trying to say, awaken even more. Awaken. Yeah, cleaning. Yeah, definitely. Yesterday, I vacuumed, I washed the floor, I dusted. I really try to keep busy as much as I could yesterday. And same with today, we're going to keep a little bit busy. But this is where the importance to all of this, and where they are wanting, they're wanting to kill the messengers. But the one beauty out of this, and even what you saw with, where people are just like, with the opening games of in Paris, we're like, what the fuck? This, no. So we're not putting up with this. You're killing the messenger. No, the message is out. And the message is getting out more and more and more. And that's a beautiful thing. But in the message getting out more and more, we're finding where the tyranny, the fascists, the whatever ism is out there, is going to get tighter and fight back even harder, because their tyranny, their thought of wanting to keep power is strong. And they will want to justify it in any means, in any narcissistic way that they can. And this is for us to really, again, look at the things that you need to be looking at in your life, and what the importance are, and what is important for you in your world. And what is self-preservation to you? And how does that self-preservation look in your own life? There's nothing wrong with being, self-preservation, but there is an awakening with it in what we are wanting to have and to hold on to. And understand this isn't the end. This isn't a period. This is really coming in, and I'm going to say it's a comma. Just a brief moment of us sort of taking that deep breath, right? That deep breath. And saying, okay, what is our next plan? And if you're able to, and I'm going to just throw this out, if you're able to, I think people should have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. In where, especially when you're looking at the self-preservation in your life. Because I can tell you, in the next few years, it sure in the fuck won't be Canada. I know there's many of us who are going to be sort of kind of stuck here, where we can't go anywhere. But I feel that there's going to be where, if you're able to make these plans, because if there's certain, I don't know, it's just the disruption that's going to be happening this fall, especially in Ottawa, is we are going to see, and especially with some of the laws that have been passed and silently passed and people didn't pay attention to, that a tyrant has been born, and a tyrant that really wants to keep hold of what his self-preservation is. And that's the awakening. That's part of the awakening. That's part of, okay, And you can, whatever people say, whatever about, or however they feel, but this is where it's this tyranny comes forward, and the heighten and the push of everything. People don't want to hear that. I mean, I can see it as people tune in and tune out of my live, and they're like, oh, there she goes again, talking about horrors and everything else in the world. But it's not talking, it's looking at within your own life, within your own street where you are. I mean, Steve and I, our rent, for August, went up, and other things in our, have gone up, and that's for all of you too. I'm really feeling for a lot of you who have to renew your mortgages, where you're going to come up with that extra $700 or even $1,000 with the renewal of mortgage. Will be, this is going to be hard on a lot of families. And it's, you look at, don't want to say, like, you don't want to down the next generation coming up, but you look at this young generation that's there, and their thoughts and their ideas, because they don't know, they're like the third or fourth generation from what has built everything of what we have today, like it or not, but they think it's going to just be there. It's just going to be there. And that's where it's like, no, it's not just going to be there. And that's part of this whole, that unexpected, that especially with Uranus still sitting on Elgol, it's going to bring things into you. For instance, with the accident that happened on the highway from LA to Vegas, and with the big a lithium fire started with a semi-trailer, and hundreds of thousands of people got stranded on this highway. Stranded. They had no way of getting the hell out of there. A lot of people were just, they didn't have they didn't have cell phone access. Some of them, their Teslas died. They couldn't, and it was hot. This is like, okay, how am I going to make sure that I'm going to be okay? Little things like a satellite phone, or it's just having those sort of reserves or those backups of thinking, oh well, part of that awakening. Now with Katie, I'm just going to, let's see if I bring her back up, has gotten such a bad rap.
Just so you know that tweet is worded so carefully so as not to piss off her employers, because she still wants to keep that job. And arguably having GB News is better than not having it. But just to explain. The other thing about this self-preservation is it means that people feel the need to preface stuff. So like, I'm no fan of Tommy, but you should watch Silenced, or I can't stand Katie Hopkins, but she has got a point here. And prefacing is just another way of self-preservation. Those are people who see, who know what we're doing, but are needing to still hold on to this, don't want to lose followers, don't want to lose support of people who aren't supporters. So are indicating to them via that technique of, I'm no fan of Tommy, I'm no fan of Katie, but self-preserving. There's something else as well, and this has a tone about it, which is going to sound harsh, but I'm just going to give it to you bluntly. When people say, I just happened to be at the Freedom Rally, and do you know what? It was a peaceful and supportive and enthusiastic affair. There's a really big part of me that wants to say, do you know what? F you. Because I know that, we know that. It's a strange one when people meet me, for example, and they say, oh, you're nothing.
So that's the whole thing, is like, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be doing those types of things. And I feel for many of you, this is where it's going to be, where you're going to have to say, you know what? Fuck you. I am who I am, and I'm going to do what I do. I mean, as you all know, how many people I lost at the beginning of all of this, and have still lost, where people find out, or they're curious about me, and they're like, okay, well, you're really not as bad as what I thought, which is kind of funny. But this is where it's like, so much is, um, what is it that we want to preserve within our own selves? And what is it that we want to bring forth in our own world? And this is not to get lost in the could have, should have, would have of the world, but this is really starting to take a point of the direction that you want to take. And knowing that if I'm taking that step in that direction, not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody's going to agree with you. And it's going to be a hard bullet to bite, but you gotta do it. You gotta be your truth. And that's the truth. That's the truth of it all. My father was very strong in, it was called the Social Credit Party. It was in BC, and he worked within the Social Credit Party, and he knew people like Bill Bennett, and he knew Bill Bennett's dad. Um, he knew, a lot of the people that were part of that party. I can't remember the one woman um, who was a part of it too. And I remember one time my dad didn't. My dad's a very good man, and he didn't swear. For him to swear, and same with my mother. So if they said the word bitch, you knew it was like, oh wow. And he looked at this one, who was coming into the Social Credit Party, and he goes, and he's like, she is a bold, fast, lying bitch. And that was sort of like, oh, well, I thought, and here, and was one of my wake ups. I was quite young. This is one of my wake ups, and with my dad, because he ended up quitting the Social Credit Party. He goes, one of the things I cannot stand is that politicians always lie. Nobody can come up and stand up and tell the full truth because they are so afraid of losing whatever they have. And he goes, even though if you come out and tell the truth, if you come out and stand up, and even to this day, if you come out as a politician and stand up and be the truth and stand up, you will be persecuted. You will be slandered. You will be taken apart piece by piece. And that's a hard one. So when you see somebody who, like, I'm trying, my brain just went dead, but Red in Saskatchewan, like, and, on the woman, I can't even remember. Anyways, who are going to court today, right? Again, they're still fighting this from the truckers rally. That how much, like, piece by piece is being taken away from them. I mean, they have fabulous family that's around them, and that help to support them, and they do get a rally of a lot of Canadians that do support them and send them love. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot, because people will try and tear you down. Pat, no, not Pat, not Pat. No. Anyways, he's on TikTok. He drives the big red truck. Um, it's taken down piece by piece, right? And that's also same with Tamara. Whether you like her or not. I mean, they threw her and Chris, Tamara and Chris. Thank you. Through they've gone to court, back to court today in Ottawa. But these are people who, self-preservation, trying to keep what's right, trying to keep the glory of what Canada really stands for. Yet they get torn apart, they get degraded, they get thrown through the mud. They lose things, like he's lost clients, of, for his business. And this is a whole, this is all part of it. And you see people, you like him or not, Trump. I mean, I know Trump can be a little bit of a dickhead, but the assassination attempt. Could you imagine if that actually happened? Where we would be today if they actually assassinated and gotten through with it? It would be horrific. I mean, 10 to 1, the border would be fucking closed. Because it would be like chaos in the United States. Things would have been turned upside down. With people standing up, and the more they have to stand up. But the one thing is, like, especially when they start telling the truth and they start calling it out. That's the one thing they didn't like about Trump, or they don't like about Russell Brand, because they say things. That's a Gemini. You look at their chart, they won't hold back in what they say, and sometimes they say it, and you have to sort of shake your head and say, "What? What did he just say about Obama? What did he mean by that? What?" This is what happens. Same with what's happening with Tommy. He's coming out and he's saying the truth. The documentary he did, Silence, I mean, is banned in the UK because it talks about truth. People don't want to hear the truth. People don't want to. They want to close their mind off, because if I listen to that, even though I know what they're saying is true, or I kind of believe it, I might lose all of this. And I gotta say to people, for me, I've lost all of this many times. I've lost a home, I've lost cars, I've lost money, I've lost stuff over and over again. But I'm always amazed that I regain it back in some way. Because it's stuff. It's there, right? So remember to know your truth. Know this isn't the end. It's only a comma. And don't be afraid of missing out. Because this is going to be a week that is going to hit a lot of nerves. The beginning of hitting a lot of nerves. This is going to be a week that is really going to be pushing people to some crazy endpoint. And you're going to feel a lot of those endpoints. And especially as we will be moving into September, October, November. I'm already, looking at September, October, November, right? I'm already looking at that, because I already, as part of my presentation that I did, about 2024 being the year of the Kraken, that this is a year of huge change within our lives and in the way that we're doing it. And you guys, I feel a lot of you know that. If I could up and move right now with my family, if I was able to do it, I wouldn't be here in Canada. I'd be fucking gone. I wouldn't be here in Canada. That's for sure. I'd be broadcasting from a totally different place, not here. So, and that's just being in a place where you would have feeling a lot more freedom. So, the Hierophant. So the Hierophant comes in, and the Hierophant's reversed. So he's like looking, he goes, "Where's your spiritual balance in your world? What is that you are preserving that is truth?" And you can look at, to the very end, how many people, with the preservation of Jesus keeping what he was keeping. I mean, it's a Hierophant card. It's a spiritual card of keeping your truth, of keeping who you are, right? And this is where you're going to, the feeling of restrictions. In some way, are you stuck in a situation you can't get out of? What are you feeling? There's a certain rebelliousness that comes out with this energy, right? It's a rebelliousness. Where is that rebelliousness within you? And what does that look like? There's a couple places I would think of going to. Um, as crazy as it sounds, I may have gone to go to a certain state. I wouldn't go into anything Midwest, definitely not. I wouldn't go to Montana or anything like that. If I was going to go to the States, it'd probably be something, maybe Florida, um, or even parts of California. I would go and I'd start to look at places like Costa Rica, Thailand. Um, even, I wouldn't even go towards Europe right now. I would stay away from Europe, just because of the craziness that's coming down. So, I wouldn't, people would say go up north. No, I wouldn't even go up north. I wouldn't even touch the Northwest Territories and shit like that. It would be crazy. Belize, I wouldn't go to Belize. You'd be dead in a second. Belize is a very harsh. People think Belize is not. It's nice to visit, but I know people. I've had clients who've gone to Belize, and to get food in Belize is very difficult and stuff. And it might seem cheap to live and everything, but Belize government is very. There's a lot of pirates and stuff in Belize as well. So I would not go to Belize. So you have to do. You really have to go and do your research. On the different places. I know the Isle of Man, um, you know, is one of them. I mean, one country that stayed open through the whole thing was Mexico, and they're having their issues as well. There's other places that are coming up. I know, even in when you look at different Indonesian countries and stuff like that, there's even within Thailand and stuff. I wouldn't go to Bali. Bali's laws are weird. Um, and you really you have to make sure you're not going to a country that especially if you look at the Indonesian countries and some of the other ones that are promoting Islamic law, and that's the other part too. So that's the other part. So um I always thought, like even New Zealand is beautiful, but it's like there's a lot of there the people in New Zealand right now are really fighting to keep their rights. One of my clients' sister lives there, and right now with their farm, um, they're really fighting to keep their farm and keep things going. Uh, a lot of the indigenous people as well. Same in Australia, and plus Australia was one of the first ones that was totally locked down. It was horrific. So you have to sort of sit back and look. Okay, who set the freedom? Where is that freedom? I mean, the way Canada's going within the next, I mean, a lot of are predicting Canada to be like a Venezuela within another 5 to 10 years. And that's scary shit. And that has to do with the rate of inflation that's happening. So in comes this card, and this card is about, stand on your own 2 feet with self confidence and awareness of your inner wisdom. Stand on your own 2 feet. There's a rebelliousness that's coming in. You might feel the restrictions, but this is that are imposed upon you. But you got to stand up. You got to stand up, and it's not time to sit around and rest. People want to sit around and rest. It's not a time to sit around and rest. It's really a time to start looking at, okay, what the fuck do I need to start doing? Where do I need to start, you know, setting my, where I need to go, and what does that look like? And as you're doing that, yeah, you got to really look for the passion. The passion is going to be hard to find, and knowing your knowledge, having that knowledge. So with the Page of Wands, it's where you lacking the ambition. You're just like, well, no, because you're getting too distraught, you're getting too, so you have to find that balance. You have to find that place where that negative attachment is within your life, and you need to purge it and let it go. And in purging and letting it go, it's going to get you to really stand, because things are changing, and they're changing quickly. So with the Hierophant reversed and the Wheel of Fortune is showing you things are going to change, and they're going to change very quickly. And things are going to change in a very rapid rate, and what that rapid rate looks like. A lot of times we want to stay because we have family, and we have, a community that we built, and attachments that are there, within this world. And that's very important. That's, very important. And we have to look at, what are we willing to let go of to move forward? What is it that you're holding on and that you're preserving so tightly right now, that you just feel like you cannot let go? And those are questions only you can answer. So, have a fabulous day. May the Lord and Lady watch over and bless each and every one of you in all that you say, and all that you be, and all you do. Stand up and be your light, because you are a shining light in this world. I have new moon is coming out. New moon is August 4th. So if you are wanting to order your new moon reading, definitely get a hold of me. They're $40. And I'm sending you guys out so many blessings. Okay. God bless. God bless you.